I'm Arlene, host of the television talk show Ask Arlene, which airs on Thursdays at 6:30. And as a business consultant and life coach, I help you to move forward in your business, project, or endeavor. So if you always wanted to write a book, but you just haven't seemed to get started, or you always wanted to 10x that business that you already have, expand it to the next level, you know exactly what you need to do, but you just haven't done it? Well, I've already purchased all the courses, read all the books, including a master's degree and credits toward a doctorate. I've sat with and met celebrities and done the networking. And what I realized is what I really needed was a mastermind group of people working toward my project, my business, or my endeavor. So what I've done is met with coaches and met with experts and put them together to work on your project. So join us today for our mastermind networking group. I'll see you there. Click the link below and join us. Hello, and welcome to the Ask Arlene show. We're so excited today because we have a special guest with us, and her name is Wendy K. Reynolds Buckley. She is an attorney with a remarkable story. She has tenacity and she has triumphed over life-altering tragedy. This amazing woman was riding along one moment in her family's car, and then she awoke in a hospital room fighting for her life. And she discovered that her entire family had been killed. That means mother, father, sister, everyone gone. At the tender age of 5 years old, Wendy became an orphan. The pickup truck that had crossed over the center divider and smashed head-on into the family's car was driven by a man who was under the influence of alcohol. And this was not the first time that he had driven drunk. Instead of succumbing to the tragedy that killed her family, however, Wendy became a deputy district attorney in order to combat drinking and driving and help prevent these senseless crashes from taking the lives of senseless others and countless others. Currently, she is a dynamic speaker, former Superior Court judge pro temp, and an estate planning attorney. For over 20 years, Wendy has shared with her audiences nationwide. Hello, Wendy Reynolds, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Arlene. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Wendy, tell us what brought you to this particular place in your journey whereby you are helping entrepreneurs, speakers, teachers, authors, people nationwide on estate planning and planning for the future.
How I got into estate planning was my parents, when they were killed, were 25 and 26 years old. They had 2 children, but they had not sat down and did an estate plan. So there were no documents saying where my sister and I would go if something happened to them. And so after I left the district attorney's office, I opened my own practice and decided, that's my next purpose. That I kept meeting little families who had young children and didn't have anything in place to take care of those kids if something were to happen to them. And I realized that was my next purpose, that God kept me alive for a few reasons. 1, to prosecute, and 2, to speak, and 3, to be an estate planning attorney. And it's been great because I can meet with people at the convenience of them and their spouse. I go to my clients, I meet with them, I help them do a very hard, difficult task, which is, like thinking that you're going to die. People don't want to think about death, but unfortunately, the only two for sures in life are death and taxes. And so we want to be prepared for both. And by doing your estate plan, that means you can prepare for both and get around the tax problem, the estate tax problem, and also prepare and take care of your children and your family after you're gone.
This is really essential. And for me, it's hits close to home because I had a family member that passed away, and she did a very good job of planning.
Right.
She planned up the wazoo. However, she didn't necessarily share all of the plan with us.
The secret plan, then.
The secret plan. I mean, it was amazing. Everybody was in place, but one of the things that I think is so important is to have a person like yourself who we can truly confide in and feel comfortable with, and who's going to actually honor our wishes on the other end. Is it my first question for you? It's strange that this is the first question for the show, but I guess this is really a personal question. How do we know that we're dealing with a good estate attorney when it comes to our will and our trust? How do we know that that person is reliable and not just, taking us for a ride, so to speak?
Well, I really try to get to know my clients. I don't send out. I would think that some attorneys will send out paperwork and have you fill it out on your own. I go to my clients. I make sure that they understand the questions. We go over the questions together. Part of my job is, I don't know if you've ever heard this, it's counselor at law. So that's what they call us, right? So we're supposed to be counselors of the law. So what I do is I go over everything with my clients. I find out all about their family and their mom, their dad, their sisters, their brothers, their nieces and nephews. And I want to see the whole package, right? So I'm not just meeting someone for half an hour. We're sitting together for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and we're just talking about what's happened in their lives, who is a black sheep of the family, who we need to prohibit from doing things, who do we want to leave the money to, who do we want to leave the kids to, all those questions. I think that basically you need someone who's caring, an attorney who will make your call you back, right? So I've got a lot of clients from people who say, oh, I called this attorney and they never called me back. And I was like, really? That's terrible. And just someone who can help them understand things too. I've been told that I'm pretty good at explaining what an executor is, what is an agent for a power of attorney, what is a trustee. Nobody understands that kind of thing, because you shouldn't have to, and unless somebody was explaining it to you like me. So
That's so true. Many of us don't know the terminology, and so it's a challenge for us to communicate with that special attorney or, well, it's usually an attorney, that special person, and also the financial planner. But in your case, you spend time with the people, you spend time with the person, but I'm concerned also about the people that they're leaving their stuff to. Do you have an opportunity as well to communicate with them, or it's more so a matter of the person sharing with you what the family dynamics are so that you know who it is that needs to, be responsible and who it is that isn't going to be the best person to carry on?
I think your question is twofold, but I help the people decide who's the best person, right? So I'll ask them, like, well, what's your brother's strong suits? What's your sister's strong suits? How old are your mom and dad? Are they able to do this for you right now? So I think that making those decisions is very important, and having someone to come back at and say, this might not be the best person. And I'll actually tell them, this is not the right person for this job, but how about this job? Because there's a lot of different opportunities to be involved. And with regard to asking about, do I talk to the people who are going to be inheriting money? I do not. It's called attorney-client privilege for a reason. I am very much a stickler on that. What myself and my clients talk about is between the two of us. And if that client wants to tell those people they're going to inherit this or that, that's fine. But I cannot tell them, and I will not tell them, because that's not my business.
Do you speak with them after the client has gone on?
Yes, it's weird because a lot of my clients, after they die, I'm like the second phone call that they make, and it's so strange. And I'm just, you know, I get to know my clients really well, and it's heartbreaking when I lose clients, but I mean that's part of life, right? So I talk to the widow, or I talk to the children, and I'll just say, you know what, just deal with this, just deal with the funeral. Get back with me in a month or two. We'll talk through all the things you have to do, but don't worry about it right now, because
Mhm.
you're protected. Your mom and dad took care of everything, so it's all good. But yeah, I'm like, I literally have had calls the day after someone died. Yeah, and
Wow.
I'm like, don't worry about me, just do your thing.
That's crazy because the
And
day after, I was
I
not
know,
in that headspace at all. It
I
took me
know.
about 6 months.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
normal. I mean, and some people just don't want to deal with it ever. So that's the other that's the other people that we worry about.
I didn't want to deal with it
They're like,
ever.
I don't have to do anything. I'm not doing. He died. I'm not doing anything.
Right, right. That would
Uh,
have been ideal for me. I didn't want to deal with it. I was in
yep,
hoping in
the
denial for,
denial. It's
but
the denial.
it's so important. You mentioned something pivotal. You said that you do talk to the families. You tell them to deal with one thing at a time, which
Hmm.
during that season is a very difficult season, considering that it's someone that you really love. What's the number one challenge that you see people have at that juncture? People who have come to you and worked with you. Well, not them, but
You mean after
I
the
guess.
death?
Right, correct.
After the death? They just don't know what to do first. You know,
Okay.
and it's not that I'm an expert on what to do after death. I mean, I've been through it before. I've been an executor. I've been a trustee. I kind of know what to do on that regard, and being an attorney, I know what to do. But for them, I just want them to have time to grieve and time to plan a funeral, and just not worry about the estate. I mean, if their loved one had taken care of everything, then there's nothing to really worry about. So that's what I kind of just tell them.
And how do you go about securing your clients, considering that some people are, thinking I'm gonna live forever, or I
Oh
don't want
yeah.
to touch this because if I touch this, it's gonna bring it on faster. Like, how do you
Oh,
go about getting people to sit down with you and allay their concerns?
I don't actually advertise at all. I never have. I find that deplorable as an attorney. When I was coming up as an attorney, it was illegal kind of to advertise. So I have not, nor will I ever advertise. What I do is I get clients by word of mouth. I literally will do one client, then they'll tell their neighbor about me, they'll tell their mother about me, they'll tell their sister about me. And I just have this network, as you said earlier. Networking is huge. And I've been busy for 24 years doing this in my own own estate planning business. I work for myself. I set my own hours, and basically, I work word of mouth. Really, if they like me, they refer me to somebody else, and so that's how I've got my business.
Wendy, that's amazing. I think that speaks volumes more so than when people advertise, because it means that you really are good at what you do, so much so that people feel comfortable to refer you. So that's really amazing, especially in our new world where not necessarily is the best person always selected, but more so the person who does most advertising, because that's the person that we know about. But you're
Right.
saying within your industry, because you're so good at what you do, you still have the ability to have a successful practice and yet not have your face all over the billboards or all over social media in order for you
True.
to do well. And I
True.
think that's not only good for the clients, but that's also good for all of the entrepreneurs who are listening to the show, to say that there still is a pocket, there still is a place in
Oh yeah.
our entrepreneurial journey where we can be able to sustain a viable business without advertising.
Hmm. It's
Well, and
doable.
budget.
It's doable. but the problem is people
That
have
is
to like you, right? They have to like you to refer you on to someone else. So if you're not likable and you do a crappy job for someone, you don't get any more work. So that's why it's, if you do a good job, then you're going to get more work.
So you've been doing this for 20 years. Are there things that you do now that you didn't necessarily do in the beginning that you've learned upon your journey that you think has helped you to be more successful with clients and more helpful to the clients than maybe earlier on?
Oh, yeah, I think so. When I started out, after I left the DA's office, I was a prosecutor there for many years. And then I had my two children, and I realized, man, I can't be a good DA and a good mom. And so I realized I needed to do something else. And I kept thinking, what is it, God, what do you want me to be doing? And the estate planning thing came up because my parents didn't have a will or a trust. I became a ward of the court and when they were killed. And so I started doing estate planning. But I'll tell you, when I was a fresh newbie with my own practice, it was difficult because I had never been an executor. I'd never been a trustee. I'd never done anything like that because I was still younger. I was still a young lawyer. But since then, of course, I have served as an executor. I have served as a trustee. I have so many clients I've met. You cannot throw something at me that I have not heard. And people are kind of weird about their families and stuff sometimes. They're like, oh, I don't really want to tell her about that. And I'm like, look, I need to know, who are we dealing with and what's going on? And so, like I said earlier, I need to know the whole broad picture, and then we can start talking about what do we want to do in the future. So I think that the answer to your question is being an executor, being a trustee on the other side, and then also being the child when I was 5 that needed to have those documents done, which my parents didn't do because, they didn't think they were going to die at 25 and 26 years old. So I tell people, I come at this from 3 different avenues, right? From being the victim / survivor, from being an attorney myself, and also then serving as a trustee and an executor for my grandparents. So.
Plus, I think based on the fact that they were 25 and 26, they may not have had one because they didn't think, like many people do, that they have something to plan.
Well, they had children, and that's what I always say. If you
Mhm.
either own a house, in California anyway, if you own a house, you need a trust. If you have children, you need to have a trust and will set up because that's where you name the guardians and the guardians of the money. It's very important. You have kids or you have a house, boom, you're done. You have to do your estate plan. And there's a lot of people who don't. I mean, I have clients who have adult children and they never did anything, and they're just now thinking about it because they're in their 70s. They're like, oh, maybe I should think about, the future. I'm like, yeah, should have thought about that a long time ago, but okay, we're good. We're all good.
So you say in terms of the time frame that we plan, the minute you have kids or the minute you have a property of any sort.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to get your stuff done.
Because many of us think I'm too young, this can't happen to me, and they're in their
Right. We don't know. I tell my clients this. We don't know when we're going to die. We're not all guaranteed to live to be 95. My parents probably thought they were going to be married for 50 years and watch me walk down the aisle and watch me go to prom, and none of that happened. And so we just don't know. Like, that's not part of our plan. That's God's plan. So
That's God's plan. How do you, and I guess this is kind of a repetitive question because it's a repetitive question. How do you get people to get past that stigma of, oh, death and dying? I don't want to talk about it. Even in terms of this show, telling people about the topic, it's not the sexy topics. It's not one of those, how to make $1 million.
I don't try to talk people into it. They need to be on board themselves. Because, excuse me, I don't go and say, you need to do an estate plan. You don't have anything. Oh my gosh, you got to do this. I don't do that. Like, if you're ready to get your estate plan done, then you call me. I mean, I can tell you why it's good and why you should do it, but really people have to be ready to do it. And it's a lot of cultures too. There are a lot of cultures who do not want to talk about death and do not want to think that they're ever going to die. And a lot of ethnicities are like that too. And so it's a hurdle sometimes, and sometimes it's not. And I mean, I've had like one or two clients who have cried almost the entire time I was sitting with her and her husband. And wow. She was like Romanian or something, and they just don't. And her husband kept going, "Oh, I'm sorry." I'm like, "That's fine," you know. And I just patted her and we talked, and I tried to make it as painless as possible.
Because she didn't want to think of her husband passing.
Which she didn't want to think about her passing either.
I hate to laugh. You shouldn't be laughing. It's not, I'm laughing at them. I'm laughing at it's really the profundity of the whole situation, you know, that whole death and dying. We don't really want to touch it, but yet we have to touch it. And I mean, there's just so much.
Well, you don't have to. You can pay estate taxes. You can go through probate court. That's what happens if you don't do it. So, right. And that is a big pain in the booty.
This is so important because, like I said, guys, listeners, this is near and dear to my heart because I had a loved one pass. And when she did, she had everything in place. And I was not in order, but she had made it so that even though I was not in order at that time, and it took me a while, once I did take on that piece of the puzzle, everything was there. You know, all the players were there. And so it's of utmost importance. And I'm so glad that you shared about if you have kids, you know, it's not necessarily wait until you're 70, you know.
I'll tell you, Arlene, I'll just jump in here real quick. One of the reasons, you know, my parents didn't have a will or a trust. So like I said, I became a ward of the court. What does that mean? That means a judge who doesn't know your family has to pick who you're going to be raised by. Because I was an orphan, I had no family to go back to. I didn't have a house to go back to. So when I got out of the hospital, which, you know, I almost didn't, I actually should have died as well. But once I got out of the hospital, I didn't know where I was going to go. Like, I didn't know who was going to be raising me and everything like that. So basically a judge had to pick where I was going to live and who was going to raise me. And I think that parents should take the time to decide that for themselves. They should say, oh, you know, my sister would be a great choice, or my brother would be a great choice, or something like that, where instead of having someone who's a stranger deciding who's going to raise your children, maybe you guys should do that.
I think that's one of the key pieces. Thank you so much for sharing that. It gives perspective to it. Like, who do you want to take care of your kids? You don't want somebody else planning that. What impact did faith have on your journey in terms of being an attorney, in terms of becoming a DA, and now doing the private practice that you have?
Oh, goodness, everything. God saved my life. I mean, I don't even know how to put it any other way. They did not think I was going to make it. I was in the car. They didn't even know I was in the car. The policeman and the firemen did not know I was in the car. I was on the tow truck. Basically, a passerby, my neighbor, stopped and basically said, hey, they have another kid. She's in the car. I call him my guardian angel. I believe in my whole heart that God sent him to save my life. And the only reason they pulled the car back off the tow truck and looked with the jaws of life to find me was because he was so insistent that I was in the car. So I mean, I owe my life to God. I've tried to devote my life to him. When I became a prosecutor, it was to save other victims. I've been speaking, like I said, I speak at churches, I speak at parent groups, I speak at high schools for the Every 15 Minutes program. I think when I left the DA's office and I opened my own practice, it was all based on what is my purpose? What is God's purpose for keeping me alive? Why am I still here and my parents are not? And why is my sister gone? She was 1 year old when she was killed, 14 months. So, I mean, I had to live, this is getting really deep now, Arlene. I had to live for four people. I had to live for my mom and dad, who only made it to 25 and 26 years old. I had to live for my 1 year old sister, and I had to live for myself. And so that was quite a burden over the years to shoulder. And, but I think I've done a pretty good job, and I think God is happy. And I've always believed that my parents were watching me from heaven, and hopefully they're proud of me.
That is such a beautiful way to package it.
Well, if I didn't find a way to package it, I don't think I would be sitting here. I think I'd be wallowing like a lot of people do when the tragedy strikes. And that's just not the way I was raised. My grandparents were always saying, you can prevent this from happening to somebody else. You can do something. You can help people. You know, you can stop these DUIs. You can put them behind bars. And so I tried not to have that victim mentality, right? And a lot of people do have victim mentality and, oh, this woe is me, this happened to me. And I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do what I'm here to do. Why did God keep me alive and not them?
Wow. At what age did you decide that?
5. Yeah. I don't know if it was 5 or 6 or 7, but I've always known I was going to be a prosecutor. That's all I ever wanted to do. So I was going to be a lawyer. I got straight A's in school. I did everything possible. I took every speech class. I went to University of Illinois. I was teaching speech communications as a junior to all the freshmen. I was a teaching assistant. That's just what I've always been good at. And, you know, God gives us all gifts, and you have to use the gifts that he gives you. So.
Wow. We have so many people online with us on Facebook, on YouTube, and anyone that has a question that would love to ask Wendy, Attorney Reynolds, please go ahead and type it in the chat there so that I can see it, and I will go ahead and ask her a question.
And you can ask personal questions too. I'm an open book. Ooh. Like I said, 150,000 people have heard my story live, so it's not a big deal. I think the more people that can hear my story, maybe someone will make a better decision also not to drink and drive, right? All it takes is one glass of wine with dinner or 2 beers at a ball game. I mean, I really am thoroughly opposed to driving under the influence of anything, and not drunk driving, just driving under the influence. And a lot of people are now talking, doing weed and smoking weed or taking gummies and things like that. And it's just a very slippery slope. Let's put it that way.
You've seen where even one glass of wine has been impactful, and
that will deaden your judgment. It affects your judgment. It affects your reaction time in a car if someone pulls out in front of you. It depends. I mean, if the guy's 300 pounds, one glass of wine, is not going to be bad. But if you're a 100-pound female, one glass of wine is a lot different, especially if you don't have anything in your bloodstream, if you haven't had a full meal, if you don't regularly drink. I mean, I learned all this stuff in the DA's office. So I know all about burn off rates and blood alcohol content and all of that stuff, which I'm not going to bore you guys with. But my husband and I always have a thing. If we go out to dinner, one of us will have a Diet Coke or an iced tea, and if the other one wants to have a margarita. And that's just the way we do it. We want to stay safe for our children. We want to stay safe for our families, and we don't want to hurt anybody else on the roads. So, and we have so many choices nowadays, right? We have cell phones. We can call. We have Uber. We have Lyft. We have, all these people in our phones that we can call for a ride. And that's what I talk to my high school students when I'm talking to them. I'll just say, like, how many numbers do you have in your phone? And they're like, 200. Hey, call somebody who's not at that party and tell them to come and get you, right? I mean, it's so easy. I mean, when we grew up, we didn't have cell phones. We had to take a quarter with us just for the payphone, right?
Is
So,
that primarily what you talk about? Because you talk nationally. You go all over the
oh
place.
yeah.
You're originally from Illinois, but you live in California, in the
Sure.
beautiful area that I live in. But is this primarily what you talk to people about, the prevention piece, or is it the planning piece, or do you marry the two when you do your speeches?
Depends on my group. For my high school students, I definitely, all I talk about is driving under the influence and my story. And I tell them my story without them knowing it's me. And the way I grab their attention is, I always say, well, you wonder if that little girl survived. And then I say, yes, I did. And that's like the grabber, then I'm like, oh, I've got them. Now we can just walk through the whole piece of my talk. And it's great. I mean, the kids are like hugging me at the end. I have emails from the students all the time. But to answer your question, if I'm talking to a church audience, I talk a lot about my purpose, God's purpose for me. I talk about estate planning when I talk to mothers groups or parent groups, because those are the people that they have kids, but they don't have an estate plan done. So it depends on my audience, what I do, but I usually try to marry the two. If it's like a parent group, I'll talk about DUIs and I'll talk about driving under the influence, but I'll also talk about estate planning. With my high school students, we just talk about, driving under the influence.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. You have something for everybody, regardless of where you are at that stage of the game, whether it's young people,
Yeah.
the young 20s, or you're all the way on up. You have something for all of us. I know too that you mentioned in your bio that you were doing a screenplay. What's that about?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I wrote a screenplay with a family friend who graduated with a screenplay degree, whatever that is, down in LA. And I don't know, like we kind of, you asked me if I wrote a book. Everybody wants me to
Hence,
write a
become
book.
an author.
Everybody wants me to write a book. I hate
Yes.
writing. I like talking.
Yeah.
So that's why I talk, but I don't like to write. But we did
So
sit
this is
down
a
and we did write the
beautiful
screenplay.
marriage here because you'll help me with my estate planning and I'll help you write the book.
That sounds like a plan to me. I think we should do that. Definitely. Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of things that we are not going to be able to cover here that's happened to me over the years that are just like crazy, crazy stuff. Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
Crazy stuff.
Hmm.
And I'll leave it at that.
Well, give us one. Give us one little tidbit. Give
I
us
don't
one.
know. When I'm talking to audiences, I tell them about, they'll ask me, well, the worst question, do you want me to tell you the worst question that I always get?
Okay.
Have you forgiven the guy who killed your family? And I hate that question. That's a hard one. The man who killed my family was a repeat DUI driver. He unfortunately never served one day in jail for killing my family, even though he had priors. Nowadays, if that happened, he'd probably be in prison actually for, 15, 20 years. So he paid a fine of $100 and he got a ticket for wrong lane usage because he crossed over into our lane of traffic, but he never went to jail. And I have had a
Wait a minute.
problem.
The person who killed your family never went to jail?
That is correct. And they had the blood sample. They had eyewitness testimony from the bartender who was serving him drinks. All of the evidence was there. I've seen the police reports, all of that. But for some reason, it really just got, taken away. And so
Was he like a very wealthy person that had friends in all
think
the
he
high
had
places?
friends in high places. But again, this was in Illinois, and it was, I'm not going to tell you what decade, but it was, it was a long time ago. And this was before Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And so there was not a lot of people that
We're
thought that this was a terrible thing, what it is. And you can always, every time someone goes out and drinks and drives, they can kill someone. And so this guy, my parents just happened to be on the road at the wrong time, really. It was a matter of them being in the wrong place at the wrong time. He wanted the 2 lanes to himself, and instead my parents just happened to be in their lane of traffic. So it was yeah, it's just been really difficult. That question is difficult for me because he never apologized. He's never shown remorse to my family or myself. He never contacted me while I was growing up, never contacted my grandparents, my aunts and uncles. And I think that's hard to forgive when the person is not remorseful or asked for forgiveness or asked for repentance. Um, I work really hard on that. I work because I'm a Christian. I know that I should forgive, and I work on that every day. And I think I have. Otherwise, it'd be hard to get out of bed every day, I think. So I've tried to just make it so that he doesn't hurt me anymore, right? And that, because when you don't forgive, then you're hurting yourself, right? So that's why I feel like, yeah, I have forgiven him somewhat, but I really would have liked to got that. I'm sorry. I took your family away from you, kind of thing.
Yeah. Do you know
Yeah,
who the person is?
I do.
You know where he is, who he
I
is?
knew I knew the town that he lived in, which was the town next to mine in Clinton, Illinois, is where I was raised. He was from a small town called Wapella, Illinois. And I know his name, and I know he was a father of, I believe, 3 kids himself. Just not a good guy, is what I've heard from people who lived in Wapella. They would say he was just a jerk. Like, a jerk's the nice term. I'm not going to say, bad words on your show.
Okay. I mean, that's understandable. I mean, I cannot even begin
Yeah,
to
it's hard.
imagine
It's
what
hard.
you would think of a person like that. But the beauty is that the way that you handle people is couched in this particular experience
Hmm.
that you have had. So when clients come to you, you're able to speak to them with a level of care and a level of
Compassion.
personal compassion, that's the word,
Yeah,
that maybe other attorneys may
right.
not have, who are
For sure.
just coming to the table with from a legal perspective and just with a legal pen. And
Yeah.
so this is one of the reasons why you're on the show today, because I believe that you are someone who can touch, move, and inspire people with your experience, but also with your expertise. And so you have both right there at the table when we come and we work with you. And so I am going to be working with you as well. And that's a huge
Okay.
step for me because when this person passed away, it really, it was my mom. It really impacted me. I mean, it's
Oh,
your mother. I mean, your mother passed
yeah.
away.
So sorry.
You're going to, yeah. And so, on the one hand, it was great because it showed me that what you do is of utmost importance and we need to
Hmm.
plan for the future. But then it also made me very much not want to deal with it at the same time because
Believe me, I get it.
so, as we close out the show today, because we don't want to take up too much of your time, there's so many people in the question bar. I'm not sure what you mean about grapes and green screen. You asked a question, but I'm not really sure what you mean, so clarify. And as we close out, is there anything that you would like to share with our listeners, your contact information or thoughts and ideas that would make this program as worthwhile to you as you would like?
um, I would just say it's just important for your family to have, like your mom did for you. Didn't make it difficult and more difficult after you die, because it really does hurt the people who are left, not just because you're gone, but because you've left them with a pile of stuff to do. And it's like going through probate court is a nightmare, and it costs so much money. Don't you want your money to go to your kids or your family, or don't you want to decide where your money goes, or do you want the government or the state or the county to decide where your money goes? And that kind of is what happens. And if you go through probate court, they take a lot of money and it takes a lot of time and they wrap everything up. So it's just smarter to get it done beforehand. And also your financial powers of attorney. If someone loses their capacity as an adult, like if they have a stroke or something and they are unable to take care of their finances and stuff, having that durable power of attorney is extremely important. I also do healthcare directives. They're very important because, you know, do you want to live like a vegetable, or would you want someone to pull the plug for you if they needed to? Or do you want someone to be able to talk to the doctors and nurses on your behalf? Because the HIPAA waiver thing is extremely important. Doctors and nurses cannot talk to someone unless, or like your loved one, they can't talk to your loved one unless you waive HIPAA. What happens is you can't waive HIPAA if you're unconscious. So you waive HIPAA ahead of time in your healthcare directive. So that's really important. The other thing is 18-year-old children, adults, actually need to have their documents done too. I do a lot in the summer. I do a lot of 18 to 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds going to college, moving off on their own for the first time. I do healthcare directives, financial powers of attorney for them, and a HIPAA waiver, straight HIPAA waiver, because what happens is the doctors and nurses aren't allowed to talk to the mom and dad. Even though the kid's 18, you know, I'm sorry, well, he's an adult and HIPAA requires me to not talk to you because your son's unconscious. So it really puts a huge burden on the families if you don't have those documents done. Even if you're 18 years old, it's crazy.
Yeah, that is no joke when your kid goes off to college and
Yeah.
you contact the school because you have questions and they tell you, oh, you can't have access to, but I pay the bill. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. That happened to me. Actually,
You too.
completely happened to me. Yep,
Wow.
that's one of the things I tell people. I'm like, oh yeah, I called Cal Poly on my daughter's behalf. I said, how much do I owe? And they're like, we can't talk to you. Your daughter's 18. I said, well, she's not paying the bill. I am. So
Wow.
it was crazy. I learned a lot right when she turned 18, like what I needed to be doing. And now I have like 200 18 to 22-year-old clients because everybody's like, you need to do these. Call Wendy. And I do all these documents for the kids.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I've got one that I actually need to put. She's coming to pick it up tomorrow. So
Beautiful, beautiful. So young people who are in school that think they're not privy to this conversation or this conversation is not relevant, it's relevant to everyone.
yes,
Everyone who can click on the social media and access this
yeah.
information, it's relevant. And even as a small child, I mean, it impacted you greatly. And so as we're closing out, I just want to say, from my perspective, this is of utmost importance. You are the person for them to contact, attorney Wendy Reynolds, because she is the one who will care about us, but who is also reputable and will not try to abscond with our funds. I hate
No,
to say it, but
I know,
I
but
mean, that's
licensed in California only, by the way. So
licensed in
yeah,
California.
don't call me from Illinois and expect anything.
Well, you
So
can call to talk to her and refer clients to her,
true,
but yeah,
true.
yeah. But it's the gentleman, Dennis said the reason why he was talking about wine and grapes was because you mentioned that wine and the screening was what caused the challenge. So the grapes. Okay, I get it. Stay away from the grapes, the wine, that one glass if you
Yeah.
are going to drive. So that's the message. No drinking and driving. Get your spouse or someone else to drive you and get to an attorney who handles wills and estates so that you
Mm-hmm.
can begin to take action on your own.
True.
And also have spiritual practice like this wonderful lady here does, so that you can, live your best life and find your purpose. And I'd love for you to come back again, Attorney Wendy Reynolds, and talk to us a little bit more about that purpose piece and how you were able to establish your purpose and how some others can be able to find and establish their purpose.
And I can give you my website if that's something that people would want. That's wendyKreynolds.com. So very easy, wendyKreynolds.com.
Wendy.
Yeah. And then they can fill out a form and it contacts me, and then I can give them a call or email back. It's very simple. Just set up an appointment. And, I'm not really here to plug my law firm. I'm here to plug the fact that people need to have their estate plans done. So I don't care if you hire me, but get somebody who does estate planning that's an attorney, can do your documents correctly. Don't do them online by yourself on that's a whole nother thing that I know we don't have time for, but do not do it yourself. You want it done correctly, go to a lawyer who does estate planning, please.
Beautiful. On that note, thank you so much. Thank you for the time. And will you join us again another time, Wendy?
Of course. Sounds good.
So much.
Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. It has been a pleasure. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you to Gary, our executive producer of the show, our co-executive producer of the show, and to Christina and all of the people who helped to make this particular program a success. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.